Good morning. Thank you all for being here. One of the first priorities I set as a United States Attorney for the District of South Carolina was to promote respect for law enforcement. It was an easy commitment to make because I am so grateful for the men and women in this state who get up every day and put on a police uniform and risk their lives to protect the rest of us. Today, we honor the hard work and dedication of those fine officers as we announce an indictment against a handful of alleged bad actors who, if the allegations are proved, do not deserve to wear the badge and should not be allowed to bring disrepute on the men and women in blue who serve South Carolina with integrity. Today, we unseal a 13-count indictment charging certain law enforcement officers with taking bribes in exchange for using their official positions to help others obtain visas to either enter the United States or to remain in the United States. We are also charging other law enforcement officers with participating in a conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute narcotics in exchange for bribes. 4 of the officers are deputy sheriffs with the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Department. A 5th officer is a former Orangeburg County deputy who now is a police officer with Springfield. The 6th officer is Chief Jenkins, Chief of Police for the town of Springfield. And the 7th officer is a reserve deputy for the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Department. One of the alleged schemes involved U visas. A U visa is a set-aside for victims of certain crimes who suffer physical or mental harm as a result of a crime. To obtain a U visa, a law enforcement official must certify that the victim of the crime participated with the law enforcement agency in the investigation or prosecution of the crime of which the alien was a victim. The allegations in the indictment accuse officers of helping others to obtain the fraudulent U visas by taking bribes for fraudulent certifications and creating fraudulent incident reports indicating that the aliens named were victims of crime. Other allegations in the indictment focus on bribes paid to officers for their agreement to protect methamphetamine or crack or cocaine or the proceeds of drug trafficking. The indictment alleges that these officers actually participated in the protection of tractor trailers they believed to contain proceeds from drug trafficking. The officers possessed firearms in the furtherance of the drug conspiracy. The indictment alleges that Officer Franklin, a deputy sheriff of Orangeburg County, and Chief Jenkins, Chief of Police for Springfield, are accused of accepting bribes in connection with both the U visas and the drugs. Officer Hunter, formerly a deputy sheriff with Orangeburg County and now a police officer with Springfield, is also accused in the allegations involving the U visas and the drugs. Deputy Sheriff Rogers of Orangeburg County, Tarang Patel, and Sunny Patel are accused of participating in the U visa scheme. Deputy Sheriffs Timmons and Shazier and Reserve Deputy Tucker of the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Department are accused of accepting bribes in connection with the drugs. All of this is laid out in the indictment, and in just a few minutes, those charged in the indictment will be arraigned before Judge Gossett here in this courthouse. They will be advised of the charges against them and the general circumstances surrounding pretrial release. You will hear further details in just a few minutes in court from Assistant United States Attorney Will Lewis, who is leading the prosecution of this case, along with Alyssa Richardson from our office. This case would never have been made without the very fine efforts of two SLED agents who suspected wrongdoing. SLED brought this case to the FBI and HSI, two federal partners with whom I am always proud to work and serve. The law enforcement officers that you see standing here today want the citizens of South Carolina to know that we will not tolerate the hypocrisy of those who pretend to enforce the law while violating it themselves, all to line their pockets. We call that public corruption, and we will always call that out. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Jody Norris.
Thanks, Sherry. Good morning. Before I get into my prepared remarks, I just want to thank the United States Attorney's Office and our state and federal law enforcement partners for making this day happen. It takes a team when you deal with public corruption. It's very tough to prosecute, and I know it's very tough to investigate, so I just want to thank you. Public corruption remains the FBI's top criminal priority, and the FBI is in a unique position to root out public corruption wherever it's found. Today's arrests are due to that tradition and due to the months of hard work by the FBI's Public Corruption Task Force, which is manned by FBI and South Carolina Law Enforcement Division agents. I also want to recognize the Department of Homeland Security for its assistance in this investigation. The actions described in these indictments demonstrate a clear betrayal of the people of Orangeburg County, this state, and legitimate law enforcement officers who risk their lives every day. The FBI continues, even as we speak, to vigorously investigate corruption within public offices that should be honestly serving the people of this state. To those who are violating the public's trust or may contemplate such, know this: we will find you, we will arrest you, and you will go to prison. It's just not worth it. Thank you. Now I'll introduce Chief Mark Hill of SLED.
Good morning. In 2017, SLED agents uncovered information involving allegations of misconduct by members of the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office that reached beyond South Carolina's borders. Upon receiving that information and the potential for federal crimes involved, we contacted the FBI and has continued to provide assistance with this investigation. We appreciate the leadership of our U.S. Attorney Sherry Lydon and our relationship with all of our federal partners, the FBI and HSI as well. Public corruption, it has been said, is a serious matter. It is one that jeopardizes the very confidence and trust that the citizens of our state have in this profession. SLED and our law enforcement partners will continue to utilize every tool we have available to investigate corruption like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. My name is John Isaac, Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations. Today's arrests are a low point for the law enforcement community. We have all sworn to uphold the laws of our country and to keep our community safe. The indictment alleges that these individuals used their positions to accept bribes to not only further visa fraud, but also narcotics trafficking. HSI played a vital role in investigating the visa fraud tied to this case. I want to take a moment to touch on the U non-immigrant visa that is mentioned in the indictment. U visas were introduced in October 2000 when Congress passed the Victims of Trafficking and Violence Protection Act. These non-immigrant visas are set aside for victims of crimes who suffered physical and mental abuse and are willing to assist law enforcement investigations and prosecutions of criminal activity. Once status is granted, it is valid for 4 years, and in limited situations can be extended. When law enforcement officials falsely certify a person's U visa petition, they commit visa fraud. They also take away an opportunity for legitimate victims of crimes, since only 10,000 U visas can be awarded each year. As alleged in the indictment, these corrupt law enforcement officials line their own wallets by manipulating drug trafficking laws and created to better serve victims of crimes. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here. All of these law enforcement officers have been arrested in the last several hours and are in this courthouse now awaiting arraignment. That's all that we have in the way of remarks now, because we've got work to do in the courtroom. Thank you again for being here.